You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. Hi, this is Juan Lee again, back. It's Life Live. Welcome to Clear Journey, our podcast and our Clear Journey, where we have our YouTube channel for all of you all who are following us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Welcome. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for coming back and spending time with us today. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, our YouTube channel, please do so. We're here to provide education and resources for you as you navigate this thing called life. And so the things that we talk about are finances, relationships, and health, because we really promote the right mindset for being able to navigate those three particular areas with the right mindset. And if you want to learn more about Clear Journey, go over to clearjourney.org and learn more about us. What we have over there for you, though, if you go over there, is a free book about budgeting made easy, and it's the guide to take charge of your finances, your money. So that's going to be something that hopefully you can take advantage of by going over to Clear Journey. It's there free for you. It's an ebook. Please go and check that out. Also, I'm an author of the book Love Made Simple, the guide to inner peace, contentment, and success. Basically, it's the foundation of our nonprofit Clear Journey. It's about the right attitude, the right mindset that love provides for us. And that's really what Clear Journey is about, giving you the right mindset, the right attitude, so that you might be able to be successful in every area of your life. Can't think of anything else. I want to welcome all of those that are coming over from my meetup group. If you're here, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to especially have some time to meet just the meetup group. We're going to build some time in here sometime soon. So hopefully let's reach out. And if you have any other questions about what's going on, you can always reach out to me at info@clearjourney.org. And again, we're just here to be able to help you navigate life successfully. Tonight, we have a guest. We're going to be talking about finances and the right mindset for finances, to put this in perspective so that you can properly hear what our guest is going to be talking about tonight. Is that we're going to have an attitude of sacrifice, to be able to really begin to work this system, this finances out. We've got to be willing to sacrifice a little bit now so that we can get some things in the future, so that we can keep some things in the future, get some things prepared, get our goal, reach our goals. So that's just something that we want to be able to be conscious of as she's talking to us about some of the things that she's going to be sharing with us. What is it going to take for us to do it? We got to bring something to the table. And what I'm talking about is that mindset that, hey, we don't necessarily need everything right now. If we can begin to build things, it will be growing and growing. And that's something that finances, when you have time and growth, that's what you're all about. That's what you're looking for. But she's going to give us the instructions, the guidance, but we got to have the willingness to do it. And so with that being said, let's talk about our guest tonight. She is passionate about educating people with financial literacy. We connected through LinkedIn, and she really talked to me, and we spoke about the fact that that's something that she really is passionate about. And what she does is she breaks down the barriers to financial planning, so that everybody can take control of their financial future and their stability because I think in everything that we want in life, we really are looking for that stability, and our finances being able to do that is what we're looking to do. So with that being said, let's introduce our guest, and our guest, her name is Megan Madden. Welcome, Megan.
Hi, Juan. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Well, hello. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. I thank you for spending some time with us and being willing to share the information that you have with us. Let's start by just saying this. What got you into um, finances? And first, tell people a little bit more about you. I just gave you a little bit of your passion. Tell people about who you are and why you do what you do.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, my name is Megan Madden, and I am a certified financial planner and a certified estate and trust specialist. I work on a boutique team called the Bethesda Wealth Planning Group, and we operate under the umbrella of Prudential Advisors. I work truthfully with anybody from the single mother making 65,000 a year, all the way up to Fortune 500 CEOs, creating complex estate planning strategies, and really anything in between as well. A little bit about what got me into finance, what got me into financial planning. It's actually really funny. If you ask my parents if I wanted to go to college, the answer would be no. I did not want to go to college. I wanted to go to cosmetology school and not go anywhere near a four-year degree. And looking back, I am very happy that my parents did ultimately encourage me to go to college. But I was, undecided in college until the very last second, until you absolutely had to declare a major. I decided I really liked working in finance, and what really drove me towards financial planning specifically is really the people side of things. So I am not the type of person who wants to be stuck behind a spreadsheet every day. I can do that. I do that. But where I really thrive is on the people side of things. I understand that finance is not everybody's cup of tea. It's not everybody's, favorite topic to talk about. And if I am able to take a complex topic and really break it down into something that's more manageable for someone, that is extremely rewarding.
Yeah, I think that's this big secret. They think that it's something that it's so big, it's almost like trying to eat an elephant. But
Yeah.
when it's broken down and really understood, you can really begin to see the benefits that it does. I mean, I tell you, this thing about growth and opportunity and timing, there's nothing greater than finances to be able to really appreciate that time element as it relates to growth. So that's going to be great. That is really great. Let's just dig into. Let's start with what are some of the common mistakes people make when starting their journey for and looking forward to their financial security? What are some of the mistakes that they make?
Sure. So, too often, what I see is that people think they have a financial plan. And what I mean by that, they know that their bills are getting paid. They know that they spoke to somebody who manages their 401k. They maybe have a few other investments going on in the background as well. That's not a financial plan. A financial plan is when you're going through and looking at everything cohesively and holistically. A financial plan is not just looking at just your cash flow or just your investments. You can't have an investment discussion without also having a cash flow discussion and recognizing that all of these things happen cohesively, not just in a vacuum.
Mhm.
Some of the mistakes that I've seen in my experience is a lot of times people just not taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. So, as an example, many, many, many employers offer really great benefits through their employee packages, offer really great financial benefits, different wellness benefits, different healthcare benefits that employees just don't know about and just aren't utilizing, and are oftentimes just leaving money on the table, leaving underused benefits on the table. And that's really an easy way for people to start getting their financial plan in order.
What are some of those things that they might be just overlooking? Is it like a secret or something, or is it something that is not very commonly understood that they're just not taking a part, becoming a part of it?
It's not so much a secret, it's more so underutilized benefits. So, as an example, a lot of employees are now utilizing health savings accounts in conjunction with their high deductible healthcare plan. There are many different strategies associated with a health savings account above and beyond just helping pay for your current medical expenses. So, utilizing something like a health savings account for future retirement benefits is one of the types of conversations that I have with my clients. Utilizing this benefit that they have through work, their health savings account, that work is contributing to on the employee's behalf. Some of the conversations I have with my clients are just optimizing those benefits and really maximizing all of the free money that you can get through work.
Are those the wording? Is there always called the health benefits savings pro? Is there different names for this program, or is it all the same? All employers call it the same thing. Could it be a different name to it?
So certain employers may classify it differently. One service that I provide with my clients is simply just going over employee benefit packages. That is extremely timely now. An open enrollment is coming up for many employers. So part of what my current review meetings are looking like this time of year is just going over the employee benefit package. What are your 2025 benefits going to look like for next year? How can we optimize it? What makes the most sense for you and your family?
Wow. Okay, that's great, and that's a service that you provide at your company. Okay. Um, how important is budgeting in achieving your financial security? And what are some of the tips at creating that stability in the budget?
So, creating a budget is essential to any financial plan. It's really going to be the backbone of any financial plan. And as I mentioned before, if you don't have a good understanding of what your cash flow looks like, of what money coming in looks like, what your bills each month look like, then we're not going to have an understanding of how much we can allocate towards our savings, how much we can allocate towards our debt payoff strategies, how much can we allocate towards our children's college fund. We don't know any of this until we understand how much cash we actually do have at the end of the month. Now,
So go ahead.
yeah, I say all that as if it's an easy thing to keep a budget. It's easier said than done. One thing that I like to, talk to my clients about is just finding a method that works with you. So everybody's budget does not need to look the same. Everybody's budget does not need to be the same. I watch a lot of skincare videos on YouTube. They say the best sunscreen is the sunscreen that you wear every day. The best budget is the one that you stick with, whether that be an app, whether that be writing things down in your notes app, whether it be writing things down on a Post-it. The best budget is the one that you stick to. Now, if you're someone who finds themselves overspending a lot, who finds themselves always reaching for the credit card, that's going to be a different conversation. That's going to be a different kind of debt payoff strategy that I talk about with my clients. But finding a budget that really works for you.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting because the way in which you explain that, and the way it's interesting because you called it, you talked about cash flow in the beginning, and then you talked about the investments, and to know how to invest you have to have a cash flow, and then for the budget basically determines your cash flow.
Yeah.
And that is what I think a lot of people think that the budget is an option, but absent the budget, you really don't know whether or not you have cash flow. It's
Correct.
so very fundamental, but yet we don't think of it in that sense of being, if I don't know if I have cash flow, because again, cash flow is a relatively word that's not used outside of the financial area. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yep.
if I got it, I got it. And I don't know how to articulate the fact that I don't have it.
Right.
If you don't have cash flow, you don't have, it's like you've run out of money, and your money, you don't have any budget, you don't have any
Right.
money. And so for you to put it like that, I think people can really begin to see it. Another area I think is another important part of that budget is the emergency fund. How does individuals prioritize building an emergency fund, and what are the ideal amounts to save to unexpected expenses?
So, an emergency fund is going to be extremely crucial for anybody's financial plan. Most financial planners are going to recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses set aside in either cash or something that's just as easily accessible as cash, like a high yield savings account or something similar. Now that may take a while to build up for some people. You may be thinking to yourself, well, I don't have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses just set aside. And that is 100% okay. But in that instance, I would tell any client of mine that would be priority number one, to focus any excess funds that you do have towards building that emergency fund. Even if you do have outstanding debt, even if you do have other financial goals that you would like to focus on as well, building up that cash flow, building up that emergency fund is going to give you the breathing room to take those other steps within your financial plan.
So here's the thing, a question that I've heard this so many times, but when you have to do it, it's one thing. Hearing it is one thing, but having to do it is another. When you say 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, what are those living expenses? Because when we say living expenses, everybody isn't living at the same space and the same level. So what is that? What are those components of those living expenses, in the sense of how do I know with the things that aren't necessary in this 3 to 6 months living expenses?
Yeah, really good question there. So, your living expenses are going to be broken down into two categories. You're going to have your fixed expenses, and then you're going to have your variable expenses. So, let's start with the fixed expenses. That's going to be your mortgage payment or your rent payment. Stays pretty much the same each and every month. Easy to plan around. Other things that stay the same: car payments generally are going to stay the same. Insurance premiums generally going to stay the same, month after month. So start with thinking of those bills that are always going to be the same recurring charges. Your streaming expenses, your cell phone bill, those are all going to be your fixed expenses. Start there when looking at what your monthly expenses are. From there, you're going to look at your variable expenses. Those are the expenses that are going to change from month to month. Things like gas. You generally know how much you're going to spend on gas for your car, but it's going to vary from month to month. Groceries. Also, you generally know how much you're going to spend on groceries, but things could go up, things could go down. There could be fluctuations. But those two categories, that's where you're going to first start by identifying, okay, what exactly are my actual living expenses? And if you find yourself going through this budget and you're like, wow, I feel like I spend more money, but I'm actually not writing down that I'm spending all this money, but I feel like I have no money left over at the end of the month, I would recommend to every single person, just go back, look at your bank statements, go through your credit card statements, and really just look at where your money has been going throughout the month. Juan, you mentioned earlier that putting in the work now, it's not always easy. It's not always fun to go through your credit card bills and see exactly what you were spending all your money on, but it can be very eye-opening, to your point, in just finding other ways to cut back.
Yeah, and one of the things of the mindset that I was talking about, again, and we didn't talked about sacrifice, but the other one is discipline. You've got to have some self-discipline in this thing, because it takes consistency over. It's not the thing about your finances. It's not something that you can set it and forget it. It's an ongoing process that you have to do. It's a lifetime journey as it relates to being able to manage it. So one
Absolutely.
of the things that you said there, here's the thing. Do you take into consideration debt when you're taking about your 3 to 6 months of expenses?
Absolutely. So we're going to first focus on what your regular debt payments are going to look like. So something, take a student loan payment, generally going to be the same month after month. But for any large balances, let's say that you do have a large credit card balance that you are
Yeah.
looking to pay down. In that instance, I say the priority is still focusing on building up the emergency fund. And the reason I say that is because you want to stop the bleeding. You want to stop using your credit card and just pause any additional expenditures on that credit card. That's priority number one. And we want to do that by building up the emergency fund, building up your cash that you have on hand.
Now, that's the thing I'm saying that now you're saying that credit card, because that was what I was really getting at, is that credit card, that thing that changes every month because you use that in the lieu of cash and you get that and
Yep.
it continues to build. Here comes the
Yep.
discipline. You've got to stop
Yep.
spending on that and eliminate that as a resource so
Yep.
that you can be able to build this emergency fund. And see,
Yes.
that's the point I'm saying. How do you do that? How do you stop the bleeding and put together an emergency fund?
Yeah, really good question there. So, when it comes to debt payoff, the most efficient way to attack any sort of debt that you do have, whether it be credit card debt, student loan debt, car loans, it applies to anything. You're going to want to attack the balance with the highest interest rate first. That's the balance that is costing you the most to have. Generally, that's going to be on your credit cards just because they are notorious for having those high balances. But to your point, it is not uncommon to have conflicting financial goals, to say, I want to build up my emergency fund and I want to pay off this credit card debt at the same time. In that instance, the priority is still pausing spending on the credit card. Let's take the credit card out of the wallet. Let's remove it from Apple Pay. Let's remove it from the Amazon checkout. But let's also now focus on allocating excess funds to the emergency fund. And then we're going to focus on paying down that debt.
Wow, that's boy, that's discipline. That's discipline.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we get through that and we get to a place where we can begin to think about investing, for someone who's new to investing, what are most beginning friendly ways to start building an investment portfolio?
So I have two tips here. The first is going to be going back to your work benefits, your employer sponsored 401k, TSP, 403b, whatever it is that you have through work. If you have something through work, that's going to be the easiest way for you to get market exposure. It's going to be one of the easiest ways for you to start getting some money in the markets, getting some money invested without you having to put too much thought into it. So that is generally going to be the first place I direct people. If you're starting to get, started on your investing journey, let's look at, what resources are already available to you. What accounts are you already contributing to that you may not even be aware that you're contributing to? And in that, when I do work with individuals who are looking to just get started in their investing journey, I always say, similar to the discipline we were just chatting about, starting off small, but starting consistently. I don't care if you can invest $5 a week, $10 a week, if that's all you can afford right now. Do it consistently, because that is really what's going to have the biggest impact over the long run. That's going to be more impactful by contributing on that regular basis, even if it is just a little bit at a time. You're going to be leveraging your age, leveraging the time that you have before you're looking to withdraw those funds, and just getting the ball rolling sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And that leads us into the next question as it relates to retirement planning. It's so interesting that we think about investing, but we don't really understand why. And the why is and you tell me if I'm wrong, but the why is it's about retirement. It's about generating revenue that you're not working for at a point in time in your life where you can't generate it for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's getting that revenue, that machine working so that you might have some revenue, some income when you can't produce it for yourself. And that's a very difficult thing to see when you're young. But here's the thing: is it ever too early or too late to get started?
So it is never, never too early to get started for retirement. The earlier that you can start saving, the absolute better. Leverage your age when you are young to take advantage of more aggressive investments to really get the ball rolling sooner rather than later. And you make a really good point that retirement, it really is what it's all about. You can take out a loan for almost anything else. You can't take out a loan for retirement. And most people, you only want to retire once. Generally speaking, the people who have to go back to work after retirement are not the happiest. So, there's a statistic that of all the people who have climbed Mount Everest, most of the fatalities are actually coming down the mountain. And you can think of it as an analogy for retirement. So you're spending all these years building, saving, investing, putting money away, doing what you're supposed to be doing. But one of the trickiest parts, like you said, is creating that revenue for yourself, is making sure that you're climbing down that mountain, that you're now withdrawing from your retirement accounts in a way that makes sense for you, that you're not going to outlive your money.
And to hear that statement at any point in time in your life, you were like, how do you outlive, or how do you begin to put your head around the concept? Now, granted, I'm a person that's in that state of retiring. And when you said that, I was like, she's absolutely right. It's about learning how to navigate coming down this mountain that is
Mhm.
extremely challenging because, you know, you're afforded some mistakes climbing up the mountain. Okay,
Yep.
it's you're afforded some mistakes, but coming down the mountain, uh, you don't have the latitude, you don't have that space to make
Yep.
mistakes coming down the mountain.
Yep. Exactly. So that's when you want to bring in a professional. There are certain things that you would do with training wheels on, and retirement is something I would do with training wheels.
Well, hey, and I think for anyone and everyone to understand, the better you have some idea as it relates to what it felt like or understand going up that mountain, gives you a perspective to come down that mountain, even though the reason that you're coming down the mountain is different. I mean, the journey is different in the sense
Yeah.
that um it's, I'm gonna tell you, it's really crazy because you're thinking about it called outliving your income.
Mhm.
I remember the first time I talked to my financial planner, I was probably maybe in my early 30s. And he basically said, how much money do you want to have in retirement? And I was like, maybe this. He says, okay, now this is not including inflation and all that stuff. So we got to put some
Mhm.
inflation in there. And then we said, and then he asked you the question, how long are you going to live?
Yeah.
And how do you want to answer that question? Forever, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to live forever. But it's a reality check. It's a
Yeah.
reality check. And it's like, okay, you start looking and digging the numbers and you says, well, okay, average living age is. And so then you go like, wow, you're now
Yeah.
looking at mortality. So this is a really a holistic approach and a holistic exercise in understanding, hey, yeah, you've got to look at life in a fullness.
Yeah,
as a big H to the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I think,
absolutely.
you know, and this just brings up another question that's not, and I hope I
Mhm.
can ask this, and it has to do with insurance.
Yeah.
How big of a part does insurance play in your retirement planning?
Insurance plays
Life
a
insurance,
huge,
that
huge role.
is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Life insurance plays a huge role in any person's financial plan, truthfully, at any stage of your financial plan, any stage of your life. But specifically, as it pertains to the retirement side of things, life insurance can play a key role in a few different ways. Number one is creating that generational wealth. So you're essentially locking in that death benefit for the future generation. So, if you have specific legacy goals, if you want to make sure my children get X amount of dollars, this charity gets X amount of dollars, life insurance is going to be a guaranteed way for you to achieve those goals. Um, but in addition to that, life insurance can also be leveraged as an additional retirement savings vehicle. So if you're somebody who is pre-retirement age looking for additional ways to save for retirement, life insurance is able to be leveraged as an additional vehicle for that purpose. But as it pertains to kind of end of life care, going back to what we were chatting about there for a moment ago, life insurance can now also be leveraged to assist with long-term care costs as well. You know,
Wow.
you look at mortality. You mentioned our increasing life expectancies, our increasing need for long-term care. You know, whether that be an assisted living, nursing home, in-home health aid. You know, long-term care can take a lot of different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Life insurance can assist with those costs as well. So it can really play a key role in many different aspects of a retiree's financial plan.
Well, that's very interesting. And is that a new policy, a new way that can be leveraged? Your life
So it
insurances?
Yeah, it is a newer, almost hybrid option. So, how it works, it's pretty cool actually. I guess it's cool if you're into this sort of thing like I am. But essentially, if you have a life insurance policy, and I'm going to make this up, it has $1 million death benefit. So, if you pass away, your beneficiaries get $1 million. But let's say we added on this long term care rider onto your $1 million life insurance policy. Now, let's say you have a long term care event. You find yourself needing to enter into a nursing home, an assisted living, whatever it may be. That rider, that long term care rider, now allows you to tap into and access that $1 million death benefit while you're still alive, because I don't know if you've ever had anybody in your life go through a long term care event. That is expensive. It adds up very, very quickly, and it can very quickly take somebody who is, upper middle class, very comfortable, very quickly down to, needing Medicaid. So, what these policies essentially do is just allow you to tap into that death benefit before you pass away to assist with those long term care costs.
Can you put those riders on at any time?
Generally speaking, you can.
Wow. That's from someone who's speaking from experience here. You just tapped into something. My wife and I are in the process of caring for our mother long term for that very
Yeah.
reason. So I relate to that. So this is very good information for me because that's something that we did not know as a
Yeah.
possibility. And if we can go and put that on there, that makes things a little bit easier. Boy. And
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
the and what you just said though is absolutely true, and people don't understand that is that health events can really diminish your your savings or your retirement in a blink of an eye. In a blink of an eye. So
Yeah.
it's one thing to have medical bills as you're climbing up that hill, but it's almost devastating coming down that hill.
Absolutely. Retiree healthcare is just about the biggest expense a retiree faces, and it's a bigger concern for anybody who is looking to retire early. So for anybody who is looking to retire prior to age 65, prior to when Medicare kicks in, figuring out what they're going to do in the interim before they turn age 65 and become Medicare eligible is often one of the main reasons why someone who would otherwise be choosing to retire early chooses to continue working until they're 65.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, in that space where I'm in that space, and I understand what you mean. So
Yep.
yeah, we have to, we again, that information that you just shared is vital to being able to make sound decisions, financial decisions, as you're pursuing. I mean, people say, oh, they want to retire, they want to retire. But you've got to have your ducks in order. And unfortunately, that's why I said, is it ever too late? Because, people get to a point where they may be 58, 60 years old and they go like, nah, I haven't put anything away to retirement. And it's like, those questions now that they were asking, that I was being asked when I was in my 30s, are
Yeah.
the same questions that you got to ask in your late 50s, early 60s.
Right.
And yet the time is not on your side.
Right. And I just spoke to a woman just last week who came to me and she was like, I don't know if I'm ready to retire. She was age 67. She was, very much like you were just describing. She was putting some money away throughout her life, but not a ton of savings. And she came to me just saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I can do. And truthfully, while she didn't have the most saved up, we were able to come up with a solution that at least put her in a better situation than she was in previously. So we were able to essentially create her own pension. She didn't have a pension through her employer or anything like that, but we were able to take her existing savings and create her own pension just to help supplement what she would be receiving from Social Security to help with her retiree cash flow. So I would say in that instance, even if you are someone who maybe thinks that they are not as well prepared for retirement as they would like to be, don't think that you're hopeless. Don't think that there is nothing that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, and I hate to be the the one that spoils the fly in the ointment, but what you're basically saying is you're going to have to make adjustments in the quality of life in that journey. I mean, when you get to that point where you're saying that supplement those things, you're going to have to make adjustments to the quality of your life if you've not made those proper assessments and savings investments to sustain. And I think the point here is I want people to realize and say, it's what you're looking for is to sustain whatever your current lifestyle is. Okay. That's what this is all about, is to be able to maintain whatever it is that you're living at. I mean, because what happens in most people's cases when they get to retirement is that they end up, as you said, either having to go back to work because they can't maintain their even a semblance of their quality of life. And I think people don't recognize that, understanding that. And that's why he asked me the question for inflation. I said, yeah, this would be a month right here. Said, I'm thinking about the way you're living right now versus what inflation is going to, that ain't going to work, And that's where you need someone to be able to tell you, hey, that might not work for what you want. You're not going to end up living at that quality of life with that amount of income. Okay.
Absolutely.
Those are the kinds of hard facts and things that we don't want to hear with. But if we don't put the time in now, it's a conversation that you can't avoid later.
Absolutely. And I have had those conversations with individuals where I've said, you're either going to have to reduce your budget to a point where, you may not be comfortable living on this amount of money each year, or you're going to have to work a few more years. We're going to have to talk about what changes need to be made. Typically I try to meet people where they are, but you're absolutely right. Generally speaking, you need to have an idea of what, have a realistic idea of what your retirement is going to look like. And sometimes that does include working a few more years to stash away some more savings, to qualify for healthcare, whatever it may look like, so that you are able to sustain your lifestyle throughout retirement. Because I can tell you right now, one question that I ask almost every single person that I work with, I say, tell me what a successful retirement would look like for you. Like if every day was Saturday, what would it look like for you? 9 times out of 10, the answer I get, I just want to keep living how I'm living. Maybe another extra trip here and there, but generally speaking, to your point, most people do just want to continue to sustain the same lifestyle that they had pre-retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's an intentionality. You really have to be intentional about doing this because again, you're not working, no income is coming in, and it's amazing because I tell you, one of the things that me and my wife was dealing with in the sense, and we talk about this is like we were on the 26 payments a year, right? So that's that 2 extra payments, extra checks a year. And all of a sudden it was like those were checks that we would just like play around with and just throw around because everything was covered. Get into retirement, that check goes away.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that what you really were spending was a little bit more than what you were budgeting. And then you have to realize that that was a part of your quality of life that you had been accustomed to, and now it's no longer there.
Right.
So that's a very interesting and understanding. Let me just get back. I want to touch on something that you've talked about and you've said, and one of the things that you were very passionate about is about educating women. What is it particular and specifically about women that enthusiasm that gives you that enthusiasm to share with women specifically?
So women are at a really exciting point in the financial industry. So women are taking on an even bigger share of the workforce, a bigger share of the primary breadwinners. And we're also at a point where the baby boomers are retiring. There is going to be a huge transition of wealth in the next coming years that women especially are going to need to know what to do with. Unfortunately, women are still, generally speaking, not in charge of the money in a household. And, I would never want to see a woman stuck in an unhappy or an unhealthy marriage or relationship due to not being able to afford to get out of it. That, I want everybody to always have the financial freedom to get out of a situation that they want to get out of. And in addition to that, women still face very specific challenges when it comes to financial planning. Going back to long-term care, statistically speaking, women are more likely to live longer than men. Are women's portfolios allocated to live longer than men? Is their long-term care properly set up because they're going to outlive men? Are their retirement accounts funded enough because they maybe took time off to raise their children? And now they're going to outlive men with underfunded retirement accounts. So there's just a very large need for additional financial literacy among females.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is I'm glad you shared that because unfortunately, women are not only children caregivers for their children, they outlive men. And then the additional part of that is caring for their parents.
Yeah.
I mean, so it really ends up being that they're at the end of the journey, having cared for everybody, and then who cares for them? And then who cares for them? So
absolutely. Yeah. And I've had couples come in that I've worked directly with, husbands saying, my main goal in this meeting is to make sure my wife is taken care of when I pass away. Men are planning to pass, older men generally do plan to pass away before their wife, but then what? if a woman has not been taking care of her family's finances for her whole life, now all of a sudden she finds herself, call it age 75, as a widow with now a portfolio to manage. This is an experience that far too many women find themselves in and are underprepared for.
Yeah, I think that's a tremendous a terrific area of emphasis. I think, but in addition to that, I think it's important that everybody get that ability to understand the finances, and for men particularly to get their wives involved with it if they have not
Absolutely.
yet gotten involved with it, because the reality is that they are going to be here probably longer than we are, you know,
Yeah.
and for them to understand that. And that's, again, that's an eye-opening aha moment for all
Yeah,
of us involved. So, I mean,
absolutely.
I guess we just touched on it a little bit, but estate planning essentials. Can you explain the importance of estate planning and trust and how they play a role in the long-term financial security of families? I know we talked about it, but a little bit, especially as it relates to trust and things like that, estate planning.
Sure. So there's an old saying that if you do not create an estate plan, the government will create an estate plan for you. So estate planning documents, even if you're somebody who does not have a lot of savings, who maybe doesn't think of themselves as overly wealthy, having something as basic as a will in place is extremely important. Having different types of beneficiary designations on all of your accounts, that is a free piece of estate planning every single person here should go home and do right after this. Check on your beneficiary designations just to make sure that, if and when you do pass away, your assets are passed down seamlessly to whoever you want to receive them. Trust can play a really crucial part in a financial plan. A trust is there to essentially allow for more control over your assets after you pass away. So let's say you have some money that you want to leave to your child, but you don't feel overly confident that once they turn 18 that they're going to make the most smart decisions with those funds. That's where something like a trust can come into play, where you can put in a few more restrictions, a few more rules, and a few more guardrails into place, even after you pass away, to make sure that things are still being passed down and handled according to your wishes.
Yeah, that's has been something that many of us neglect to do because no one knows when that day or time is going to happen. So, like you said, as
Right.
soon as possible, that's something that we need to take place and get involved. So, that being said, uh, hmm, last question, I guess, here is that the confidence in financial discussions. Who should we discuss our finances with? Who are the people that we should be confident in sharing our financial situations with?
I would say anybody who you currently share your finances with. And what I mean by that is anybody who may be financially dependent on you. So, any sort of, not talking about children here or anything like that, but any sort of spouse, partner who may be financially dependent on you, who you may be financially dependent on. I think that is especially crucial to just have an understanding of, each other's financial situations. In addition to that, elderly parents and their adult children, that is a crucial, crucial conversation to have at least one of your adult children involved in your financial situation. To have one of your adult children as power of attorney on your bank accounts, to have those additional controls. Doesn't have to be all your children. Could be the child who you trust most with this sort of thing. But I would say for elderly parents to have somebody in their life, if they don't have any children, nieces, nephews, whatever it may be, just to have somebody, younger than them to be able to come in, step in, assist with those financial medical decisions that may come into play if, an elderly person becomes incapacitated.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Is there an outsider that you can solicit to be able to do something like that? Because if you don't have any children, single person, how do they do that?
Sure, sure. So at that point in time, you can always grab a friend to be a power of attorney for you as well. You can also include a bank or an institution at that point as well. So a bank is able to be a trustee on a trust, so they're able to help guide with different decisions on a trust. So you are able to add institutions on certain estate documents as well.
Okay, all right. Um, Last question, I guess that wasn't the last. This is the last one. It says, "What are the top financial tips for individuals and at different stages in life? Young professionals, families, those in nearing retirement. What's a one takeaway or tip that you want to give at the various stages that they can take away with tonight?"
I would say for young professionals, my takeaway would be save. Save as much as you can, save more than you think you should. For families, young families, my takeaway would be on protection. It would be still on saving. We still want to focus on building that nest egg, but that's when we're going to add in more of those insurance conversations, a little bit more defense into our investment portfolio. So just adding on a little bit more of that protection side of things. And then once we're talking about a retiree, someone, in that, going down the mountain that we were talking about before,
Mhm.
that's when we're really going to talk about your estate plan, your legacy goals. Let's make sure that you do have all those estate planning documents in order. Let's make sure if you do want to leave a certain amount of money to an individual, to an organization, that we're having those conversations. Let's make sure that we're having a plan to address your long-term care needs.
Yes, yes, yes. And the thing about it is, it's so interesting because at every stage of life, there's a proper way that we can be able to navigate that stage of life. And that information that you just shared, I think, is essential for us to be able to navigate it successfully. So, how can people reach you if they want to learn more about the financial planning and more about finances in general? How can people reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. I am very responsive on LinkedIn. You can see here, this is my team's website, the Bethesda Wealth Planning Group.com. There is a link on that site where you're able to book an appointment directly with myself or a member of my team. I can also be reached at just megan.madden@prudential.com. And I really encourage anybody out there who may be thinking to themselves, even if you are thinking to yourself, maybe I've never worked with a financial planner. I maybe don't think I have enough money to work with a financial planner. Let's have a conversation. I have never met anybody who I haven't been able to at least assist in a little bit.
Well, hey, and that's what we're talking about. Education, understanding, knowledge is powerful. And if you're willing to share it, and we want to thank you for what you've shared with us tonight, it has been a very informative information that you've shared with us. And we thank you for spending the time with us. Again, I appreciate you coming out with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Juan. It was a pleasure being here.
All righty. Hey, don't go away. I'm going to take you backstage and we're going to close out the show and I will be back with you there. But hold on. Don't run away from me. Okay.
Okay.
All righty. Well, everybody, thank Megan for being with us tonight. Again, it is so important that we take the information that we learn, that we hear from our guests, and really begin to digest it with the right mindset, because that's what it's all about. It's going to take the attitudes of discipline and sacrifice, but it's for the long term. We are trying to prepare for a time when if we are currently working and preparing for that time to retire, this is the time. Now is the time. The sooner we get involved with the process of investing and being able to learn what that implies, the less difficult those decisions that we will have to make it will be if we do it early. The later you get on in life, those decisions and choices are going to become more difficult to make because they're going to be challenging, because you want to be able to sustain some type of lifestyle in retirement. So just take that into consideration, that the best time to start is now. I don't care where you are, the very best time is now. So again, if you want to learn more about Clear Journey and what we do and how we do it, by all means, feel free to go over to our website. It's at clearjourney.org, and you can find out what we do there. We're always here on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern time to be able to be here to help you navigate life more successfully in every area of your life. So until then, as I say always, we can't change life, but we can help you navigate it the best we can. So until next time, we'll see you then.